Hey legends, this video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to have a bit of a mix of buy, hold, sell. I'm going to take you through my team and my results year to date. I'm going to have a look at the calendar ahead and we're going to talk about some downgrade options and obviously who we think you should be trading in for the run home. Because if you're anything like me, you're probably down to your last one or two trades. You're desperately trying to get 13 on the park for this week. And you really want to start thinking about how does your team shape up and get ready for the run home. So with all of that in mind, let's get into it. Alrighty, so here is how my team is essentially shaping for the run home and some of the things that we really have to think about. So we've lost Nico, and this week I'm also thinking about trading out Brendan Piakura, and that'll bring in Sipley and Gray to the team. But what I wanted to show you here is exactly what I'm thinking in preparation for the run home. So after all the buys are gone, what do we do? So at this stage, I'm likely to keep Harry Grant. I'm probably going to keep Ruben Cotter. Right now, I'm 50-50 on Maxi King. I'm probably going to upgrade to a Yo or a Haas. Sipley will probably be a long-term bench player. Fafita, I'm happy with. Katoa, I'm happy with. The big decision here is, do we upgrade to someone like Angus Crichton? So, maybe he is an upgrade. We'll put a question mark there and an Angus Crichton there. Maxi Plath, I'm probably going to upgrade again to an Isaiah Yo Payne Haas. But then I need a half. So big decisions to make there. Lockie Galvin, I'm probably going to hold on to for the season. He just keeps delivering, but I am conscious that the Tigers do have one more buy to come. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Karaz, I'm happy with. Aitken, I'm happy with. Manu, we're going to upgrade him next week to James Tedesco. I think that is the best approach there. Drinky, at this stage, I'm probably going to hold him. Garrick, I'm probably going to hold him. Appy Coruscant, I'm thinking about upgrading to maybe a Reed Marnie. Whiten, at this stage, we're going to hold. Fainu, I love his flexibility, so I'm probably going to hold him. Iro, at this stage, I'm 50-50. Really not sure what to do with Iro. And then we've got Hands, he's on the chopping block. Sharp is definitely on the chopping block. We may end up keeping Gray for a little while, at least until Latrell Mitchell is out. And KO Weeks down here, well, he is definitely a upgrade target, ideally into a Nathan Cleary. So there you go, that's kind of how my team is shaping up for the next few rounds, at least in terms of the way I'm thinking. I will be able to put 13 on the park this week, which means hopefully we can have a big, decent week moving up the chart a little bit. And let's have a look at that now. Okay, so here is my season in a nutshell. We started, well, pretty poorly really in round one, but quickly made up some huge ranks, which was great. And then we went on this ridiculously painful slide. And it's thanks to a couple of errors. We held Nathan Cleary way too long. I had that stupid trade where I just didn't lock in Jamal Fogarty. That was absolutely painful, and I had to play him as my captain even though he was out. That was just disgraceful. So we've learned a few lessons. It's then been the hard road really from round 8 back up to, what was it, rank somewhere 19,000 or something like that. Little bit of stabilization over the last week or two. But this week, I'm hoping that we can get at least somewhere around this 15,000 mark. That would be amazing. And then maybe we can march towards the top 10 or top 5,000. That would be fantastic to finish the season, especially after we had this bit of a shocker here in the middle of the year. All right, so next up, I really want to talk about who are we targeting from a trade-in point of view and when we should look to start to do it. Because obviously, we're going to get some new trades in round 20. And of course, we've got some Origin superstars coming back from Origin duty. So hopefully some of them will back up. And if you're buying a couple of these Origin guns, you need to be conscious of, will they be rested? Will they get restricted minutes? And how many games are some of these guys going to miss between now and the end of the season? Because even though the big Origin bye is out of the way, in round 20, we've got the Sharkies, the Eels, and the Dragons all out on a bye. So you've got to be conscious of how your squad looks with that in mind. And then, of course, we continue to have one bye every single week through until the end of the season. So, you know, Tigers have been fantastic, but they do have a bye in round 26. And Warriors, if you're going to invest in those guys, they also have a bye in round 27. So very hard to cover. And if you've got a Warriors player in round 27, it effectively means that, you know, season done and you won't be using them anyway. Now, for me, I'm really looking to target James Tedesco next week. Then, depending on how things are shaping up, I'm probably going to go more towards the mid. So it'll either be a Yeo or a Payne Haas. So that's effectively my round 20. I really need to get in James Tedesco. I think he is a must-have. Now, I've already got him, but other players that I think are really important this week are Ruben Garrick. I think he is definitely a good get. And David Fifita. Now, I'm lucky enough to have both of those guys, but if you don't have them, I reckon they are big trade-in targets this week. I've got some question marks on Cookie, but I can see why he's popular. Aitken, I think, should be on everyone's radar. He's very expensive, though, so a trade-up target. Campbell, I've got some question marks on. Nathan Cleary will definitely be a target for me, probably in round 21. I think for me, it's more important I sort out the middles first before I worry too much about the halves. I think the halves coverage isn't too bad, and I really want to see one round with Nathan Cleary back. So interesting to see if he's back in round 20. Reed Mahoney, I'm keen on as an upgrade target from Api Coruscant. Latrell Mitchell, will he be back? If he is back in round 22, 23, then he will almost certainly be a must-have as well. So you've got to keep some of these trades with that in mind. And of course, injuries. If we look back on 2024, it is the year of the injury, especially with some of our superstars. Now, other players on my radar are definitely Kalen Ponga and Angus Crichton. What's important to note here is we've got to make choices because we can't get them all in. So you've got to really think about who you can afford and when do you get them. Because keep in mind, if you stack your team with too many Roosters, for example, well, you do have this bye coming up. So teams that don't have a bye are becoming more and more important. So you can see, you know, the Titans, the Dolphins, the Storm, the Panthers. Now, what's interesting about the Panthers is even though they don't have the bye, we know they are renowned for resting players in round 27. And look, if your team is in the top 4, like maybe the Storm here, then they're likely to rest a couple of players before they go into the final. So that's one to keep an eye on as well. The Bunnies have no more buys. The Doggies after round 19, no more buys as well. The Eels have round 20, the Raiders, but then there's probably no one really relevant there. So there's a couple of things just to be conscious of in terms of the dynamics that are at play here. And after round 19, we only have the 7 rounds to go to make sure we are absolutely humming. But realistically, you want to be pretty much locked into your final team, I would say no later than round 21, 22, somewhere around here. And I think you probably need at least 1 or 2 trades up your sleeve just in case of injuries. You know, if you've spent nearly another $1 million on Nathan Cleary and he goes down again, then you really don't want to be carrying that $1 million for, you know, maybe 4 or 5 rounds. It'd be good to have that trade up your sleeve to then, you know, just switch out into some other player like Jerome Hughes or something like that. All right, so let's have a look at some of the downgrade targets. And you can see here, this is by no means an exhaustive list of everybody that you should be considering. But I've got a couple of players that I know I'm definitely considering for this week. So for me, I've gone Jai Gray and I've gone Sipley. What I like about Jai Gray is we know he's got the role for about 4 weeks, which is great. But then if Latrell Mitchell doesn't come back, he is likely to play for the rest of the season, which would be very interesting. Next up, we've got Simpkin at the Sea Eagles, 327k and available at hooker. So if you're looking to, downgrade maybe a Harry Grant, or, maybe Jeremy Marshall King is still in your team and you need to offload him, then maybe Simpkin isn't a bad way to go. This week, I also needed a mid, so, Sipley was probably one of the better choices. It was either him or Moretti, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I went with Sipley because Sipley is starting and his PPM is amazing. So he is a little bit more expensive at 395k, but I think hopefully if he can maintain that starting number 8 in the Sea Eagles, then he should give me really good coverage in case one of my big guns goes down and I don't have any trades left. Next up, we've got Atkinson. I don't love this one. 445k is a bit more expensive than I would like to pay, but Nico is gone for the season. And even though I think Trindle will probably try to dominate that halves position, I do think that Atkinson has a lot to offer. And if he can get a fair share of the ball, then you never know. He could be a little bit of a superstar. Over at the Raiders, you've got Starling, 372k, which isn't an amazing price, but not too bad for a decent PPM hooker. He's not a bad option. What I don't really like about the Raiders is you never know from week to week who Ricky Stewart is going to pick. So, one to watch for sure. Now that's very similar to Will Price here at the Newcastle Knights. 442k, a little bit expensive, but he is delivering some pretty decent results. The big question mark for Will Price is, can he keep his position in what is a very competitive position at the Newcastle Knights? And if he can, then he will be a great buy at 442k. And he may absolutely do a job for you, but just, buy with caution. Next up, Ezra Mam. Now, he is obviously a bit of a question mark. Not a fantasy gun by any means, but the Broncos are down to their, 7th half at this point. There's no Reynolds. They've lost Jock Madden. Ezra Mam, hopefully leading into the finals, should start to go on a little bit of a tear. He should absolutely be the dominant half, and if he's everything he's touted to be, now is the time for Ezra Mam to stand up. And if he does, then obviously he's going to have that position between now and the end of the year, and fingers crossed he can make you some decent money, or at least provide you some decent cover if one of your main halves goes down. So one to watch. I'm not doing it. I think it's too risky, but 395k, you can't ignore that price. Next up are a couple of Eels boys, and the Eels are providing some really great downgrades at this stage. So we've got 4 guys from the Eels here. We've got Dury on an edge, 298k. We've got Moretti in the mids. Now, the reason I haven't gone Moretti is he is coming off the bench and his PPM isn't quite as good as Sipley. But then again, he's nearly 150k cheaper. And if you're just looking for a pure cash out option this week that gets you a decent mid, then Moretti might just be your man. 256k. He's probably the cheapest mid that might allow you to cash out this week, but keep in mind he could just as easily be out of the team in a week or two, so probably not the best purchase. Now another edge, Geimer. What I really loved about him was his just hard performance last week. Absolutely a guy who just ripped in, and I can see a bright future for this guy in 2025. I think he is going to be an absolute superstar, especially if he plays with the same intent that he did in last weekend's matchup. If I needed an edge, I would absolutely be on Geimer for sure. Now next up, our last guy this week is Tago. I think it's Jack Tago at 234k. What I like about him is obviously the wing fullback center position, so it gives you good flexibility. Should have relatively decent stability, and might be somebody I actually look to cash out someone like a Sharp next week, and that'll generate me about 100k or so. So these are the guys that we want to kind of downgrade into to free up some cash so that next week we're in a position to pounce on a James Tedesco, a Payne Haas, an Isaiah Yeo, or even get ourselves ready to jump on a Nathan Cleary. So that's what I want you to be thinking about. We're either up trading to the superstar gun for the run home, or we're downgrading to free up a lot of cash so we can do that in the next week or two. Okay, so let's just jump over to what you guys are doing in the market. And you can see that a lot of decisions, and we'll start with the who's not list, but a lot of decisions are really being dictated by injury. Nico Hines is gone, Latrell Mitchell gone, Kula gone, CNK gone, Ben Turbo, he's only out for 1 week, keep that in mind, but I can understand why people are selling. KO Weeks is somebody that I'll look to target next week for an upgrade. And as I've said in a previous video, KO Weeks for me is an upgrade to Nathan Cleary. Salmon, gone. Hughes is probably overstayed his welcome. Manu is out injured. Now, I have heard of a few people just holding on for 1 or 2 more weeks with Manu. It could either prove to be a genius decision or an absolute nightmare, but I can understand why people are selling Manu. Now, for me, I'll be upgrading Joey Manu into a James Tedesco next week. Jeremy Marshall-King, he is absolutely a sell. He is now gone for the season. Jack Cole, I get it if people are looking to upgrade or downgrade. Ethan Strange, I understand. He could probably be a hold for a little bit longer, but I do understand the move. Sean Bloor just really hasn't recaptured some of his early season form. David Armstrong is gone, and Hopgood is gone. So a lot of those decisions really make sense this week. There's really no one on that who's not list that you would look at and go, oh, that's a dumb decision, because most of those are very, very logical, and I can completely understand the reason why people are doing it. Now, looking at the who's hot list, Jai Gray is the player I've gone for this week, and he absolutely makes sense to me. He's got the duel. He's set to hold the wing fullback position for at least 4 weeks, maybe even longer, and should make 1, really decent scores, and 2, a lot of money so that we can even upgrade, maybe even into a Latrell Mitchell by the time Latrell is ready to come back in maybe 4 or 5 weeks time, if he comes back at all. And if he doesn't, who cares? You've got Jai Gray for the remainder of the season, which, you know, he's scoring 40s and 50s. That's not a bad pickup for somebody who's just over 300k. Colin Matangi, he is a great buy, producing some great results in the 13 at the Bunnies. My only concern is what happens when Cam Murray comes back, and does Colin Matangi get moved back onto an edge? And if he does that, will the score start to plummet? So something to watch there. He's a bit of a question mark for me at this point in time. David Fafita, I think he is absolutely a must for the run home. Campbell, question mark for me at this time, just in terms of role, not capability, but role. You know, right now he's got the number 6, which is awesome, but he could just as easily be moved out to the centers, out to, you know, wing fullback, and maybe not score as well as he has been at number 6. So one to watch. Geimer, we spoke about, he is an excellent trade down target, whether it's this week or next week. Will Price is a 50-50. I think for me, if he can hold his position, absolutely a decent buy, but could easily be out of the team, you know, with 1 or 2 bad performances. So one to watch. Jack Whiten, I really love his center and half flexibility. Ola Kawatu is probably one of the buys of the week. He's a little bit underpriced this week, but could be a great asset for the run home. Would have been somebody I would have purchased if I needed an edge, but really just don't need one this week. Maxi Plath, he is a great buy. There's a couple of watch-outs on him though. He is moving into the hooker position at the Dolphins, so it'll be very interesting to see what Maxi Plath makes of that move, and will he have the same scoring output with the change in position? I really hope he does. If he doesn't though, he is an upgrade target in the next week or 2. Ruben Garrick, I think now is the time to get on. He won't be any cheaper than he is right now. And you know, you saw his performance last week. He is absolutely capable of some huge scores. Tommy Turbo, I'm a little bit nervous about this, but hopefully he can keep his body fit and healthy. And if he can, then fingers crossed he can finish out the season on a high. Tago, another downgrade target. I think that is absolutely a great purchase. Ewan Aiken, superstar, probably one of the best centers we have, and I love his edge flexibility as well. Matto, I think that is a great purchase as well. I just hope that he gets the consistency over the next few weeks. That's what we really want to see. Consistency and minutes from Madison, and he will do you an amazing job. And Lockie Galvin is probably the buy of the year. Started the season at 230k and is absolutely kicking some amazing goals right now. He is just on fire from a points point of view, from a money-making point of view. He's one of those players that you could really upgrade into a Nathan Cleary or downgrade from a Nico Hines, which is probably what's happened here. So there you go, guys. Look, that is the video for this week. A little bit of a different one, just because, you know, it's very difficult at this stage to do a normal buy, hold, sell video, because it's really going to come down to what your team needs to set yourself up for the run home. So my biggest advice this week is get your house in order. Try and get the 13 on the park, but don't be going and buying players that really you don't want for the long term. You're either upgrading or downgrading to free up cash, but you're not really going for that middle of the road player. So there you go, guys. Look, that is the video. If you've liked it, you know what to do. Smash that like button for me. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll see you all in the next video.